During a layover on his way to OCS, Johnny unexpectedly encountered his father Emilio, who was also serving in the mobile infantry. They hugged, cried, and caught up on each other's lives. Emilio had followed in Johnny's footsteps and had become a valued corporal at the age of 41. He revealed that his initial anger towards Johnny was partially due to his own unfulfilled desire to join the military and serve with his son. OCS proved to be more difficult than basic training and involved intensive technical schoolwork with no time off on Sundays. Most instructors were amputees or disabled in some way. Johnny struggled with math, but received help from one of his bunkmates. Ensign Carmencita Ibanez visited OCS and arranged a 3-hour pass for Johnny to take him to dinner. She delivered the sad news that Johnny's friend Carl had died in a bug attack on a research station on Pluto. Johnny noticed that Carmen had shaved her dark locks, as hair was a hindrance in a zero-gravity cockpit, but she still looked stunning. She kissed Johnny goodbye before he returned to OCS. The OCS curriculum included history and moral philosophy, which was intended for Earth civilians and off-planet colonists who did not take it in high school. Johnny expected it to be an easy break from math and science, but the course was demanding, and his commission depended on his performance in the subject. Johnny found out that the bug attack had destroyed San Francisco and the San Joaquin Valley, but in the history and moral philosophy class, the news was disregarded. Major Reed, the instructor who was known for his habit of looking straight at people and calling them by name, posed a question about whether one prisoner not released by the enemy during a war justified renewing the conflict. Johnny hesitated, then said that one prisoner was enough reason to continue the fight. Reed asked him to provide written proof by the next session. Reed asked Sally, another student, to explain how the current system originated from the disorders and the fall of major governments. Sally said that some Scottish veterans took control and their system of rough justice, combined with the tension between veterans and civilians, evolved into the current world government over time. Reed asked Salomon why only retired veterans could vote, and Salomon said it was because they were smarter. Reed exclaimed preposterous and pointed out that the revolt of the scientists failed as science does not require social responsibility. Sally suggested that service personnel were disciplined, but Reed rejected that as veterans had the same crime rate as civilians and most service personnel were not battle-trained. The students discussed the ideas, but it was evident that none of the previous systems, from monarchy to anarchy, had worked effectively. It was only after the present system of governance by retired veterans was established that the world became stable. Personal freedom for all is the greatest in history. Laws are few, taxes are low, living standards are as high as productivity permits, crime is at its lowest. Reed stated that the key factor was that veterans have a proven willingness to risk their lives for others. Reed then explained that governance is the organized use of force and that force requires responsibility. In earlier systems, voters could vote without personal consequences, which led to disasters. In the present system, voters have earned the right to vote by risking their lives to protect society, Reed said. This is why we make it so hard to enroll and so easy to resign. Johnny had to write a paper on whether war could be abolished. He concluded that population pressures were the cause of wars, and that any society that limited its population to preserve its resources would eventually be overtaken by another society that did not limit itself. Thus, he believed that wars may be unavoidable. As part of their training, cadets were assigned to serve as temporary officers on ships going into battle. Johnny and 3 other cadets received their orders and reported to Commandant Nielsen's, who briefed them from his wheelchair. They were to serve as 3rd lieutenants, an imaginary rank that gave them nominal authority in the chain of command, but still left them as students with no real power, except in battle. Nielsen warned them that they may have to take command of larger units if their superiors were killed, and that handling this responsibility poorly could result in being cashiered or worse. Nielsen suggested that one way a young officer could survive in heavy combat was by consulting with their sergeant, who was often older and battle-tested, and then making a quick decision and giving clear commands. Johnny and the other cadets received their officer pips and went to the roof to take shuttles to their ships. Johnny shared a ride with Bertie, a cadet his age who was battle-tested and had a BS in math and was widely believed to become a general. Bertie went to battle, but his pips returned 2 weeks later with a Wounded Lion Medal, awarded posthumously. On board the Tours, a medium-sized transport, Johnny was honored to dine with the other officers in the mixed-gender mess hall. Most of the naval officers were women, including the captain, and women dominated the pilot ranks. Dinners were formal, and the men seated the ladies. Due to their camaraderie and pride, the mobile infantry had the lowest number of officers of any military organization, less than 5%. During emergencies, many officers had to perform double duty, such as a general's planning staff also serving as team commanders. One reason for the shortage was that MI officers suffered the highest casualty rate in wartime. MI Captain Blackstone gave Johnny formal command of a platoon, but a sergeant was actually in charge. Johnny struggled with delegating authority, and Blackstone told him he was acting too rigidly. Blackie ordered Johnny to be more relaxed. With his math studies and extra duties, Johnny was extremely busy, but he fell behind in neglected sleep and exercise. Blackie ordered him to stop his studies and extra duties until the return voyage, and Johnny finally got enough sleep. Their destination was Planet P, a small, icy world with unhealthy air developed by the bugs as a staging site. The Navy had the ability to sterilize it from a distance, but the Federation aimed to capture members of the brain caste for interrogation. The bugs also captured humans for study, but showed no interest in exchanging prisoners. They may, however, exchange for high caste members. The Federation's goal was to invade the hives and obtain some. The surface had already been cleared, so cap troopers were taken down in shuttles. Johnny's platoon took positions across 680 square miles and coordinated with nearby platoons. Hive entrances were not to be closed off, in the hope that warriors would emerge and waste themselves in surface battle, allowing the MI to climb into the hives and retrieve high-caste members. A corner beacon was missing and some squads failed to respond. Johnny saw several armored suits lying on the ground. He learned from his sergeant that the corner beacon was destroyed by an unusually large bug nuke. Johnny ordered guards around the hull, but the sergeant wanted a new corporal pulled back. However, Johnny wanted him to gain experience and ordered him kept in place, incorporating all the sergeant's suggestions into his deployment orders. Johnny jetted over to the blast crater and found it much bigger and more radioactive than he expected. He pulled back the guard troopers and radioed Captain Blackie, asking to drop into the crater and inspect it for hive holes, but Blackie forbade it. Patrols became tedious, and Johnny varied the patterns to keep his men alert. A talented human, a spatial sensor, arrived by shuttle and walked about, clad only in a uniform and oxygen mask. He wanted no distractions, so Johnny ordered his patrols to drop and freeze. The sensor wandered about, listened, and an assistant quickly drew up a map and handed a 3D copy to Johnny. The map showed a main highway 1,000 feet down with a bug colony branching off and roads rising to within 100 feet of the surface. Johnny redeployed his men to set up listening posts at points of interest, and Blackie made adjustments to Johnny's orders. Engineers would drill down and cut off the bug highway at 2 places, and either the bugs would swarm out or the troopers would go in and engage them. Until then, half the men were on watch and half slept. After several hours, Johnny's men heard a sudden increase in activity beneath them. This was what they had been waiting for. Captain Blackie ordered Johnny's platoon to retreat and observe, and orbiting Navy vessels would attack the bugs as they emerged en masse. The bugs attacked suddenly in several places. One onslaught boiled up under Johnny's feet, causing him to fall into the hole, but he was quickly carried back to the surface on the bodies of the surging creatures. He realized this outpouring was a feint that only contained peaceful workers. Thousands of worker bugs swarmed around Johnny's men with warriors interspersed to attack the troopers. The men were under strict orders not to enter the hives, but Platoon Sergeant Zim disappeared into a bug hole, followed by Sergeant Brumby and a squad. A shockwave knocked Johnny miles away, but he regained consciousness and ordered his men to retreat and clean up. He found out that 2 were killed, 2 injured, and 2 disabled. Johnny led a team into the hive to search for Zim. They split up through the tunnels. Johnny got in touch with both missing sergeants on the radio. Brumby's team was lost, while Zim was trapped and surrounded by bugs. Zim asked Johnny to leave him and escape, but Johnny disregarded his request and started the descent to find him. On the way, Johnny's men encountered Brumby. Bugs suddenly attacked, and when the smoke cleared, 4 troopers were dead, including Brumby. The squads continued to where Zim was trapped. He was holding a braincast bug as a hostage, which prevented the warrior bugs from attacking. Johnny's team defeated the warrior bugs, but more bugs descended and the roof collapsed, burying Johnny. He woke up in the sick bay on a transport ship, suffering from broken ribs, a concussion, and radiation poisoning. Zim's capture of the brain cast member earned him a promotion to first lieutenant. Johnny recovered, returned to Sanctuary, completed his studies, and graduated. He was posted as a second lieutenant on his old ship, the Roger Young. Lieutenant Johnny Rico inspected his troops as they prepared to drop onto Klendafu for a big battle to retrieve MI troopers who were imprisoned there. Johnny's platoon sergeant, his father Emilio, helped load the men into their pods. Finally, Johnny strapped in and radioed the skipper. "Bridge. Rico's Roughnecks, ready for drop." This is the end of the book. If you liked what you heard, please press like, leave a comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, thank you for watching this long. See you soon on Books Recapped.